Wow, it's great to get another, anything on the channel. This was just a fun side project I wanted to do featuring the UCS AT-AT, which I got for Christmas. With this project, I finally figured out how I'd be doing my explosions in my videos. Earlier, while working on Obannadia, I tried making pre-made explosions with a small build for each frame of the explosion. There are a few problems with this though. Firstly, keeping around 10 or more builds of basically the same thing is very parts intensive. Also, every explosion is different, as they are all under different conditions with how they happen, who is around them, and even just how big it is. I never ended up keeping any of those test builds for the reasons listed. The first shots I did for this film were with the Rebel fortification, where they are firing at the stormtroopers. In one of these shots, the AT-AT shoots the machine gun nest, destroying it. So I had to do my first official stop-motion explosion. So I went down into my basement to go to my filming spot, but this time I brought a bin of orange parts with me. Doing this, I also found it very handy to just have a bin with me for filming, as I might need some random parts and pieces for stuff. Then, when I started building up the explosion frame by frame, I would just add different stuff to the explosion, making it bigger and then making it smaller, following a similar shape of the explosion each time. This worked pretty well and is how I did the other explosions in the video and how I will do explosions in the future. One explosion that didn't make it into the final cut, however, was the speeder bike crash. I had planned to have the second bike run into the first and flip into the air and then land on top of it in a big explosion. This obviously did not work out. I couldn't get the impacts to look right, and the aspect ratio was too tight to have it look very good, so I just had the off-screen explosion instead, which is fine. Those speeder bikes, along with the AT-AT, is most likely going to be the only official LEGO sets in any of my stop motions. I like building mocks, and I have a few that I built for part 1 of Obannadia. And one of them is pretty big, but it was far easier to film with that model rather than the UCS AT-AT, which is significantly larger. For the first shot we see of it, I put my 4 blue base plates in the background, which with the camera put higher up on a chair, I was able to get the shot completed pretty good. Then, I really wanted to have a shot with the AT-AT in the background and all the troops at its feet, but my base plates are just too small and I didn't have enough of them to cover the whole background sky. I thought I would have to cut this shot, but then I had a brilliant idea. Let me begin this by saying that I prefer to have my films be all practical. This includes lasers, explosions, everything, even space scenes, which I've not seen done completely practically at all. The key to the success of this shot is that the app I use for my stop motions has a blue and green screen feature, which I had not really thought about before this, wanting to keep everything practical. So instead of using my blue base plates as a background, I put a tarp as the background and use the blue screen feature to have it be the blue base plates instead. This makes it so that I can have my big wide background, but also have it be studded like the rest of my sky throughout the film and my stop motions. The only problem with this approach is that it breaks my rule of doing everything practically, but that is more of a strong recommendation, as there is a tiny bit of digital altering in Obannadia when that comes out. There was also some small undesired side effects of the blue screen, which is why we move on particularly quickly on to the next shot, which is the beginning of the credits. Like I said earlier, I prefer to have practical effects, so it was a hard choice to make when I considered making text scenes like the credits to be digital instead of practical. Earlier with the Obannadia logo and other text images, I had attached all the letters to a big black rectangle basically, so that I could film them like that. However, for the credits especially, there's a lot more text I have to put on one screen that I simply don't have the parts to make. I then decided to switch over to a digital system where I built all the letters, took a picture of them, and uploaded them to a slideshow where I would be able to create any words and sentence sizes I wanted without worrying about if I would have all the parts. And just now while editing this, I realized I didn't make a 0, which I can just use the O, it's fine. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Make sure to like, subscribe, and especially share with your friends. Part 1 of War on Obannadia is well underway, but I cannot and will not tell you a prediction of when it might come out, because any number of things could happen. All I can tell you is to not expect it anytime soon, and you might be pleasantly surprised if it comes out earlier. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.